Hello, welcome to the Knitterbeal podcast. My name is Sarah. I live here on the west slope of the Sierra Nevada mountains and Sierra Nevada foothills. This is a podcast about knitting. It is Saturday, August 14th, 2021. I just recorded 8 minutes of this podcast. However, those adorable little kittens stepped onto the keyboard of the computer and completely deleted the entire 8 minutes I already recorded. So here we are again. Of course, you didn't know that. You didn't need to know that, but there we are. So, welcome. Again, it is a very, very hot August afternoon, and it's probably about 95 degrees out there. Actually, nope, that's exactly what my computer says. It's 95 degrees outside. So, anyway, I have been away for a little bit. I'll tell you why later. And so, again, this is a podcast about knitting. I hope you will like and subscribe, and find me on Ravelry as Knitterbeal and on Instagram as The Knitterbeal, which is what this podcast is. So basically, today I have 2 finished objects, and I'm happy to report that I have 1 pair of socks that I may enter into the summer sock camp hosted by the Crazy Sock Lady K. So here they are. Of course, I had 1 of them finished, I believe, on the last podcast, and this is now a complete set. Yay! So this is yarn from Hobby Lobby, and it is called Yarn Bee, and it's in the colorway Meteorite, and I just love how it knit up. Now, this is 100% wool, so I am a little concerned at how these might wear because of the fact that they're 100% wool and they don't have any nylon content, and a lot of times sock yarn does have, 25-15% nylon in them to make them a little stronger, but these are 100% wool, so I am very curious to see how they wear. I bought this yarn though because of the colorway. Now, I had seen on a couple of different Etsy shops some yarn that was a gray background with this, kind of rainbow feature to it, and decided I needed to have some of that. However, it is mighty expensive to buy hand-dyed yarn. So when I saw this at Hobby Lobby for, I think it was like $16 for a 100-gram hank, then I went ahead and bought it. So anyway, I have entered these into the Crazy Sock Lady Summer Sock Camp Ravelry thread, the Magic Loop Cabin, and that's pretty much my only entry. But the reason why is because I've been knitting so much else. So on to the number 2 finished object. So we have finished the Aurora Sweater. So I blocked this outside, so there's a little bit of, weeds on it. I put it on the little piece of artificial carpet we have outside, artificial grass we have outside, and I didn't pin it or anything. I wet blocked it, but I didn't really pin it. I just kind of stretched it and just to get out some of the little ripples that was in it. But this is a Aurora Sweater, which was designed for Iztec's Lopi yarn, and I used Plymouth yarns in their 75% acrylic, 25% wool that I got at my local yarn shop, Lofty Lou's. And of course, you can see that this pattern has these little swords in it. So basically, my son and I were watching a podcast. Well, actually, I was watching a podcast and I invited him in to see it. So it was the Ninja Chickens. I think I've already talked about this, but I'll talk about it again. So she had knit her son, who's 8 years old, a sweater and used this very classic Icelandic, yoke sweater pattern called Varur, and she basically substituted out this section for these little swords she designed. And in her comments in the project's pages on Ravelry, she put the actual pattern for this little tiny sword. So basically, I printed it out and I went ahead and knit it. So there's a couple little mistakes I have. I basically was supposed to put in one little blue, thing in between each of these little, diamonds, but I don't think it matters. And I was supposed to start the yoke like further up because she had taken out more of what was in the yoke pattern on the original pattern for Aurora. So but I messed up. I don't know. I started a little too low, and so anyway, this is how it ended up. And my son, he told me these are called red rock, and I think it kind of looks like a little flower, which is kind of cute. And basically, yeah, that's how it ended up turning out. Now, he has tried it on. However, yeah, this neckline is a tiny bit too small for him. So I managed to get a picture of him in it. If I can figure it out, and I can put it in, I will put it into this podcast. So anyway, I have cast this off just a little too tight, and so we can barely get it over his head. But, and I see I've already woven in all my ends like a good girl, but I will need to unweave those ends because I have got to make this larger so he can get it on and off himself without having mommy help him, and yeah, trying to tear his ear off because it's not going over. So anyway, now I know how to do a loose bind off because I will give you a little tip. Best way, rather than kind of loosen it as you're doing your bind off in your last, row, whatever, just grab some needles that are 2, 3, 4 sizes larger than the pattern calls for, and go ahead and bind off just in a regular knit stitch, with the knit to pull one over, or slip one over type of bind off, and it works beautifully. I've tried to unlace and things like that, and it really does a fantastic job of just making you do a very loose bind off. So I will be unknitting that and at least making him able to put it over his head. Now, I will tell you that I stole some yarn for this pattern. I stole it from that scarf that I'm knitting for my sister-in-law. So I did not want to go buy another ball of black yarn, and I had run out of black yarn for this project. So, oops, there's a cat playing with that cord. Oh dear, oh, ah! What are you doing? Kitty mayhem here. Nope, that's my water. So, anyway, I stole some yarn from there. I did not want to go buy another ball. I had just basically got to the end of the red rock here, and I was like, oh shoot, I have to knit the whole entire collar. So I weighed her ball of yarn. It was 72 grams, and I need to weigh it again and figure out how much I use so I can, buy another ball of yarn and finish her scarf with what is rightly her yarn. So anyway, oh no, the cat is here again. I need help. Daughter of mine, come get this cat. Over here. Alright, so that is the Aurora sweater. I will be fixing it, but other than that, I am calling this a completely finished object. There is no reason why this is not finished. And in the she's showing you the kitty some more. In the middle of summer, he will not be wearing this for a while, so I have some time. Alright, so on to WIPs. So I know, of course, like I said, I wanted to knit all the socks for summer sock camp and have lots and lots of entries. However, because that sweater distracted me, I did not get much sock knitting done. Now, I will tell you though, I did get a little sock knitting done. I lost this for a little bit, and so I did not get to do as much as I would like. But, of course, you already saw first sock. It's very cute. I love it. It's for me. It's out of Malabrigo Rios in some sort of blue colorway. I don't know what the name is. But I have a second sock done. Or I'm second sock started, I should say. So I am to the actual pattern part. I finished the cuff, and I'm just 3 rows or 2 rows into the pattern. So now if I do get this finished, which is by the deadline of August 31st, I can enter it twice because it is a Crazy Sock Lady pattern. So I can enter it once as her pattern, once as a regular pattern, or as a sock, and I can get 2 entries. So I would have 3 altogether. However, I don't know, because as you can see, there are lots of WIPs coming down the line, even more that I'm going to be talking about that aren't even cast on yet, but I'm planning to knit before I finish this. So I may only have the 1 entry. We don't know. So anyway, that's as far as I got on this adorable little sock. I'm so sorry, because I really want to wear it. I want to wear these socks because I think that the pattern is so cute. I think it's called Whispers in the Wind, and again, it's by Crazy Sock Lady. And I just absolutely love how the pattern knit up in the front. It's got this cute little, I think I already showed it the last time, but it's got this cute little slip stitch, and it crosses, and when you put it on, it just expands into pure cuteness. So anyway, that is my first WIP. All right, so second, we have the Emerald Bay Shawl. I think that I had started to talk about this the last time. Now, it's in my Sierra Nevada yarn crawl bag. So these are the places they visited for 2020, which of course was a virtual yarn crawl because of COVID. And so anyway, I have the shawl in here. Now this is what I have been working on a ton. After I finished that sweater, I basically got back to this shawl. Now, I think I showed you a bit of this shawl the last time. However, I knit it wrong. I completely had a frog. I had gotten all the way like to here. I mean, I had gotten like this much of the shawl done. However, I had done the too many decrease. I don't know, something that made it wrong. And when I picked up the pattern again, because I had done it like from memory. It's my son. He's looking at me recording my podcast. Everybody wants to watch today, apparently. It's my first Saturday afternoon podcasting. So anyway, I had knit it incorrectly, and when I picked up the pattern again, and because I hadn't knit on it for like a week, I looked at it and I started knitting it, and it kept being wrong. And I'm like, what is going on? Why does it not look right? Why does it not look right? So turns out I had done the start, and I kept doing the start again and again and again instead of switching to the pattern of the pattern. Does that make sense? So I had to completely frog it. Can you imagine? But this is all the work I've done completely on it since then. So this is my work. So of course I haven't woven in any ends, so we are looking at all the nice little yarn here. But I am so excited about it. So this is the Emerald Bay Shawl by Justine, and it is done for the Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl, which is coming up in September. And basically, it's a bunch of garter rows and then this adorable wave pattern that you put in every so often. Now, I have a mistake in here as well. Apparently, I buy patterns, I want to follow them, and then I kind of just do my own thing sometimes because I forget to look back and see what I'm doing. So you can see that the ripple and waves that is right here is a 3. You repeat it 3 times. Then you do a bunch of garter. Then you repeat it again. But I was only supposed to repeat that, or do the ripple and wave once, and then do a bunch of garter again. So it was supposed to be this large pink again up here. Well, once I got to the right amount of stitches on the pink, I just switched back to following the pattern correctly again. So anyway, it's working out. I figured it out, and I think it looks fine. In fact, the Sierra Nevada Yarn Crawl featured my pattern last weekend after I knit a bunch of it, and I took a nice little picture of it. They put it on their feed, so I was so excited. So I think somebody approves. You know, I approve. It looks adorable. And so this is in Lisa Souza yarn. It's called Timaru, which is I have the ball band here. It is from a local yarn shop. So this is a local dyer to me. And so she sells her yarns at Lofty Lou's, and this is the 65% merino, 35% bamboo. So it's 100 gram balls, and it calls for 2 of these balls for this pattern. So, and this is garnet, which is the kind of pinky color, which, yeah, I guess it does look kind of garnet in the sense of it being red, but it's kind of like a mauvey pinky red, but very, 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 very nice to knit with. It's very squishy, very nice, and I don't have the band for the other color, which is this pink, or I mean the purple color. But anyway, I have this much left of that one, and this much left of this one, and so I'm almost done. In fact, I basically, you can see there's a very large garter section I'm working on here, and then once I'm done with, I think, just a few more rows of this garter, then there'll be one more section of the ripple waves, and it's going to be in the pink color as the very end. So it'll be a really beautiful feature at the very end. In fact, I actually have a picture. Oh, I don't even have to show you a picture of it on the internet. You can see it as a picture on somebody. So, can you see that? But yeah, basically, oh look how cute. She's got the Sierra Nevada yarn crawl bag in her pattern there. So anyway, that is the pattern for, or that's the Emerald Bay Shawl. Actually, I have one more picture. It doesn't really show you. Yeah, that's what it looks like when it's supposed to be like all completely out. And you can see Emerald Bay is in the background. How cute that they did a photo shoot in Emerald Bay, which is a bay that's in Lake Tahoe. So if you look at the Sierra Nevada yarn crawl, I'm sure a lot of people who watch this live in California. That's Lake Tahoe there right in the middle. And then if you look, I guess Emerald Bay would be like this little tiny teardroppy thing coming off of the lake right there that kind of looks, yeah, little nub. That's Emerald Bay. So anyway, very local person, local shop, local yarn, all very local. So that is my Sierra Nevada yarn crawl shawl, and it's by, again, Justine Chanel. So I will link it in the show notes below. And I am planning to wear it for my Sierra Nevada yarn crawl. However, I am also planning to gift it after that. And I have found out that a very dear friend that has moved to another state, but I still keep in contact with, her husband is terminally ill, and it is devastating. They have a 3-year-old, I think a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, something like that, 15-year-old, and a 17-year-old, and it's absolutely devastating, and I feel like I would like to give that shawl to her once I finished knitting it. But anyway, so more water. I ate a piece of candy before my podcast, and it is wreaking havoc on this dry mouth. Oh my goodness. So water is where it's at. This is what I was eating. Oh, have you ever had these? They're delicious. Don't eat candy. Candy is bad for you. Don't eat it. Twin snakes. One sour, one sweet. Got these at Target. So delicious. Just don't eat them. They're so bad for you. So that was the Emerald Bay Shawl. Okay, WIP number 3. I have started, okay, so July 4th weekend, they had a half-off yarn sale at my local yarn shop, Lofty Lou's, as I always talk about. And they're not open on Sundays usually. But my daughter and I, we went down there because they said, oh, we're open this Sunday because it's this half-off sale we're having, and we're going to be open for a few hours on Sunday. So we went down there after meeting on Sunday. We went down, and, well, what else are you going to do but get totally enticed by yarn if it's half off? So that's pretty much what we did. Oh, here it is. So here's my bag. Yep, that's right. It's still in the Lofty Lou's because I don't really have that many project bags. So anyway, this is what we got. We got a sweater quantity of yarn. Did I already talk about this? I really don't remember. I should have looked in show notes, but anyway, it is called Amori. And basically, Amori is this yarn that's made with 100% New Zealand wool. So, okay, I'm sorry, 75% New Zealand merino and 25% possum. Now, these are not like our normal possums we see here in California, those rat-looking things that are not very attractive and have short little wiry hair. No, these guys, these possums in New Zealand are adorable. But apparently they were overrunning the island, and so they had to like do something about them. And somebody had this crazy idea to go ahead and use their yarn use their wool for yarn. And so anyway, this yarn is super soft. So I got the DK weight. And so my daughter and I, we sat there in Lofty Lou's looking up DK weight yarns and or sweater patterns to see how much quantity wise I would need in the sense of the, you know, yardage and all that kind of stuff. So we found a couple of patterns and I was satisfied with my yarn purchase. So basically I got like 4 balls of the blue and 2 of this pink and then 1 ball of the gray. So basically this is my color palette for the sweater, and I immediately wanted to cast on the sweater. Now I didn't do that because I was working on the yarn or the emerald bay shawl, and I was working, I think, still on the sweater for my son. But I did eventually cast on the sweater. And because everyone's always talking about Sleeve Island and, oh, you'll never finish because you're on Sleeve Island and all this kind of stuff, I decided to start with the sleeves. Now this is a piece together pattern. This is not knit as one piece. It is what I prefer. However, this pattern is it's called the Tuhu cardigan, and it was designed by Mirasol and June Ellison. So anyway, this is a sleeve. I finished this last night. I'm very excited to say. Now, it is so stinking cozy. Now, apparently possum fibers are kind of a tube, and so it's going to be super warm. I can imagine wearing this cardigan just like every day. Putting it on, running and getting my coffee in the morning, you know, down the hall where it's chilly and we haven't started a fire yet, and just having this adorable cardigan on. So so basically, because I have the one gray, I striped in just a few lines of gray here, and then I continued with the pink up the sleeve. And so I'll do the same, I think, for the cardigan. So I'll have like a couple rows of gray, and then the rest will be pink. So I'm really excited about it. And then, of course, the paneling will be blue, and just like how the sleeves are blue. But oh my goodness, this is so soft. I love it. Now, my family doesn't think it's as soft as I do, but I think it's just gorgeous. And I did swatch it. I had to go down 2 needle sizes to get gauge. So, and I'm glad I did, because I really liked the fabric that it created with the needle I chose. But it's got a very much of a halo. But when I washed it in the washing machine, which I will not be doing when I have the sweater. So I hope that it holds up nicely in the sense of not getting dirty and stuff, because I don't want to have to wash it a lot, because I will have to wash this by hand. That thing poofed up into an absolute poof ball. I mean, it felted a bit. It didn't like shrink a ton, but it is like a puffy ball of yarn, almost as a flat piece, you know? It was just amazing. I couldn't believe how much it just bloomed. But it is just the softest thing. I could sleep on it as a pillow. I mean, I just love it. But last night when I had this finished, this sleeve, I was wearing it as a scarf, and I'm like, oh, this would be the cutest scarf, don't you think? So I love it. I wish I would have knit it as a scarf. Honestly, I would have been very happy knitting it as a scarf if I would have realized it was going to be that cute. But it is adorable, and it's so soft. So I have one sleeve done. I actually just cast on the second sleeve last night when I finished the first one, and I'm already this far. So I'm very pleased with it. I've made some major modifications to the pattern already. I don't know, it had you increasing like really fast, and I think it would have just been too fast. I think it would have just went to a balloon, like just way too quickly or something. So anyway, I'm already doing some modifications. I decreased more rapidly than they said at the top too, because I think that the sleeve would have been enormously long if I would have kept knitting even more. I mean, it's already very long, but I will be fine. It will be totally fine, because it's got the nice ribbing at the bottom, so I can scrunch it up and everything like that. So anyway, that is my Tuhu cardigan. And again, it's out of DK, which is all the rage these days. Everyone's knitting DK socks. I have not got on the bandwagon yet, but I plan to. Don't worry. Because they're supposed to be so fast. Alright, so next. Now this is where we talk about WIPs, and yet it's not really a WIP yet. It's kind of a dream of knitting thing. However, in the sense of printing a pattern, I did that. So August 12th, the Opus Shawl came out. So if you watch the knitting podcast called, what is it? Happy Hour, I think, by Les Garçons, which is these two gentlemen up in Canada who do a podcast, and they're knitwear designers and dyers. And anyway, so Max is this gentleman I'm about to show, and he is the designer of this Opus Shawl, and he is doing a knit along. And so I was watching his podcast the other night, and they talked about how it was coming on out August 12th, and so I'm like, I want to be a part of that, and because look at this shawl. Oh, isn't it adorable? Oh my goodness! Actually, I love the colorway he used. This is, it's a navy blue and some gray and some dark gray, and then I think he called it ochre, but it's like a mustardy yellow. So anyway, apparently it's a very easy shawl, and actually I've already looked over it, and it is indeed a very easy looking pattern. So I cannot wait to cast this on. I ordered the yarn right away last Saturday. I got it from Love Crafts. I got some DK, which was alpaca and wool, and then I got another one that was, I think, also alpaca wool, but I had to get like 2 different brands. One of them looked like way more fluffy in the sense of the alpaca, so I hope that it works out. They're both, oh no, I'm sorry, this is not DK weight, this is sport weight, so, which is, a step down from DK. DK is a little thicker, and sport is a little bit finer, and then of course you have stocking or fingering weight, which is what you use for socks. So anyway, I cannot wait to start this pattern. I am waiting. I've been tracking my yarn purchase, and it was in Nevada yesterday, which, as you know, Nevada's right next to California, so it should be here any moment. I imagine it'll be here Monday. But I really had hoped it was going to be here today, but it didn't arrive, and I really wanted to do my podcast. So there you go. That's what I'll be casting on next. So it is not a WIP, other than the fact that I printed the pattern and I bought the yarn. So anyway, I have one more WIP, and it is going to be frogged. I can already tell you that right now. It has already been frogged, in fact. I did end up starting this sock for my father out of this yarn, and it's a beautiful, beautiful feeling yarn. It is merino and silk, and I absolutely love it. However, I cast on 68 stitches, which I thought was going to be plenty big enough. He's a grown man and everything, and I knit about 4 inches of it. So I got the cuff done, and then another like 2.5 inches, and then I had my husband try them on. Now, I know my husband's feet are bigger than my father's, but he could not get them on. So I thought, okay, I will go ahead and have my father try them on. Maybe it'll work. Now, I realize with wool and things like that, you can really block and stretch and everything like that. But I thought, you know what, I don't want him to feel like he's trying to or almost ripping the sock every time. I want him, every time he puts them on. And I want him to feel like, it's a gift that is usable and nice and all that. So anyway, I ripped it out. Decided, okay, I'll go up to 72 stitches. Now, keep in mind, I do knit on a size 1, which is a 2.25 millimeter, needle, because I like the feel of the gauge and everything like that. That's just what I have on hand, too. I have knit my husband's socks on size 3 needles before, but for this yarn, I really want to use a 1. So I am this far. However, I've decided I'm going to keep these socks for myself. I'm going to rip this out yet again and knit my normal 64 stitches for myself, because I really like this yarn. I really like the texture of it on these needles, and I'm going to knit something else for my dad. That's what I decided. That's my decision. So that's where we're going with it. So they got frogged, and they will be frogged again. I don't need the 72 stitch sock pattern. So anyway, I will be doing it with 64 stitches, which is my normal sock. Anyway, okay, so that is all the WIPs. Now, acquisitions. I do have a couple. Even though my yarn is not here for my Opus Shawl, I still have some other acquisitions. Besides the sweater quantity of yarn I bought for the DK sweater. I also did buy a couple of balls of yarn from eBay. Now, I was so excited to get this yarn, and I was, again, thinking about my dad's socks, and was thinking, oh, this would be great yarn, it looks like it's a really nice texture, and all this kind of stuff. I bid on it, because it was a bid eBay item, not just a buy now one, and the second, I swear, I hit place bid, I realized they're cotton balls of yarn. Now, I have knit cotton yarn socks before, and I knit them on a way too huge gauge because it was like the cotton you'd use for a dishcloth. And I thought that would be great for my husband. And yeah, they just cut into his feet. He's like, I can't wear these. They hurt my feet, like to walk on them. So, but this is actually designed for socks. So I am going to give it a go. I will probably, I think I'm going to knit them for my dad. I think this will actually make 2 pairs of socks. So I may be knitting one for me, one for my dad. I don't know. But I got the yarn, and here it is. It's actually 87% cotton, 13% polyester. So, hey, that's what came in the mail, and that's what I bid on, and that's what I got. It wasn't very expensive. It was like $8.50. So, pretty good, I think, for 2 100-gram balls of yarn. Anyway, so, last acquisition. Now, this is actually a gift from my daughter. She had my husband, because, you know, she doesn't drive. She's 15. She had my husband drive her to our local yarn shop, and she got me a ball winder. So here it is. It's still in the box. Well, okay, it's in the box just to hold it in the box, but it's actually doesn't fit in the box because it's got its pieces attached to it right now. So this is just your classic, you know, little ball winder. So you put your yarn through this little loopy thingy, you pull it out, and it stays like this, and hey, like you knitter podcast viewers have not seen balls of yarn like that. But anyway, this is what it looks like. You can adjust this little thing, and it clamps right to your table, and yeah, it's very, very, very cool. So, of course, I had to wind some yarn. So this is what it makes. You ever heard of people calling them cakes of yarn? So this is basically what happens. You get a cake. So see, normally my balls of yarn look like this when I wind them up into a little ball. But this one is now a cake. So it works fantastic. I'm so excited. She's very generous. She paid with her own little money and, you know, little money. But anyway, that's my other acquisition. It's Yarn Ball Winder 2. Laces. So there it is. Yep, from Lofty Loos. So that's pretty much it. Now, why I haven't been around. I got COVID. Oh my goodness. Yes. I did get vaccinated, everyone. I got vaccinated back in March and April. I got my 2 vaccines. I got Pfizer. I had no reaction to it, but we think that that's because I'm on immunosuppressant drugs because of my cancer and GVHD and everything. So basically, I had no reaction to it at all. And so we think that maybe, you know, so I was on cyclosporin at the time, and it says right on the package, you know, the big old gigantic thing that says, here's all the precautions going along with this medication. It says right on there, vaccines may not be effective while taking this medication. However, I still feel like I wanted to get vaccinated because I felt, you know, safer, but I probably shouldn't have been as confident in going out into the public and without my mask on, and, you know, the new strain of COVID is out there and everything like that. So anyway, I got COVID. However, none of my family did. My husband has been vaccinated, my daughter's vaccinated, my son is not because he's too young. We would get him vaccinated if he was old enough. I think that's coming out, they say, in like December. So basically, I had a fever, like, it laid me up. I was in bed for 4 days. I finally went to my mom's house because she needed to take care of me. I mean, she woke me up to eat, to take my meds, to everything like that. So I had 100.9 fever, and it went up to 101.4, and man, I was out of it for like good 4 days. So I started to feel better, and so my work said, you know, you need to get tested for COVID before I can come back. So I did, and it was positive. We couldn't believe it. So I have now been called by Walgreens. That's where I got my COVID test. I've been called by the California COVID team. I've been called by physicians and everybody. Everybody knows I have COVID. I have been trying to tell everybody I have COVID because I did see some family members the day before I felt like I got some of my symptoms. I feel like I exposed some people because I was at work. We had a meeting, no masks on because, of course, we're all vaccinated in my unit and everything like that. But man, I was out of it. But I recovered. I think Wednesday this week was like my last night or Tuesday was my last fever. So I don't think I'm contagious anymore. I am going to be tested. They're going to give me like a cycle threshold test, apparently my doctor is, to see how contagious I still am next week, which would be nice. And of course, that's when my son couldn't go back to school. So first day of school was Thursday, and they would not let him come because he's not vaccinated, and which he wouldn't be, but because there was COVID in the house. So anyway, he couldn't start school. I emailed his teacher. He's going to start next week. He has another COVID test on Tuesday to make sure he's negative, and then he can go back Thursday, they said. I give him results on Wednesday and they're negative, and he hasn't had any symptoms. However, my daughter came home with a cold yesterday. We called her school. Her school was fine. She's vaccinated. She was COVID negative. So she got to start school this week. However, she got a cold. So we took her to get tested for COVID yesterday because the school's like, well, your mom had COVID and you had a cold, you have the cold, so we want to make sure you don't have COVID too. So anyway, she came home yesterday from school and she's doing fine now. She just, like I said, has a little cold. But we'll see. She might have COVID. Who knows? She did get vaccinated, like I said. But that's the story. So, however, I am feeling totally fantastic, and that's why I'm podcasting, because I feel great. Like, I feel like I should have felt when I got my news I was cancer-free after a year of my transplant, and I was going to start going to photopheresis fewer times a month. So, basically, rewind 4 weeks ago, I now feel like, yay, again, like, I'm alive. So, anyway, been cooking and cleaning, you know, that's what you do when you're not sick. You can clean again. So, anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I think this is my longest podcast ever. This is 38 minutes we have been talking and chatting. And I hope you all are doing well and staying safe out there. COVID's still out there. Be careful, please. It's no fun. I'm very glad I got vaccinated. I think I could have been a lot worse. Who knows? Anyway, happy knitting. Bye.